Hello YouTube, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Remember to like and sub, trying to get this channel to 1,000 and maybe 100k in the future. Moving my camera to the left side because we're reading this article. With Armored Core 6 isn't an open world because devs didn't want it to be like Elden Ring. Now Armored Core 6 is the next big installment. I believe it's coming out, well, it's coming out this season. And after the monumental success of Elden Ring, a lot of people have high expectations for this game. Now, I never played an Armored Core game, but that's all my cousins and friends would talk about back when the game was out on PlayStation. I did see Josh Strife Hayes' video on it, and it definitely looks like a very interesting but extremely tough game from what, From Software is notorious for. I have played every major From Software game in sense of, well, I haven't. I played Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring and Bloodborne. I never completed Dark Souls 2. I'm starting to play that, and Sekiro I gave up on because it was too hard for me. It's just, I don't know, it just didn't click for me. But for Armored Core, we're learning some really big information about it, especially that the game will not be open world. Armored Core could have potentially had an open world exploration element, but From Software believed best to stick to the series' charm. According to dev team, Armored Core 6 will double down on customization and parts assembly so players can craft the perfect AC for any situation. Armored Core 6 will feature mission-based gameplay, but each map is intricately crafted and the devs are confident in the quality. I think this is the best idea. Again, I've never played an Armored Core game, but I've seen videos analyzing the game, and one of the biggest aspects of Armored Core based on those videos was that each individual mission has specific requirements that sometimes require you to change up your setup. Unlike games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or Bloodborne, every weapon, every item is a viable option, even the broken club. And if you're one of those insane players who can literally beat the game blindfolded, like it seems like they're blindfolded because they literally know everything that's coming towards them. But regardless, yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be a much more logical step to allow you to fully customize your Armored Core to ensure that you can take on whatever mission. And while Elden Ring definitely had a much more welcoming customization system, it still was more prudent for you to stick to what you were used to in order to capitalize on the tactics you were using. That could be said for Armored Core as well. You're probably going to stick to whatever item you know best, but in the reality is that you have a much more lenient system, at least from what I've seen from gameplay videos. They basically encourage you to try different options, whereas Elden Ring and Dark Souls, they low-key penalize you for trying other options because you're required to respec, change your items. It's a whole hassle, and it becomes so annoying that you basically go for what is known instead of what could be, best for the certain opportunity. Armored Core 6 could ended up as an open world game in some capacity, but From Software decided against it on the series Soul. In an interview with the dev team for the upcoming mecha action game earlier this year, Yamamura talked about how the team believed after much deliberation that it would be best to focus on the true charm of the series, creating your perfect Armored Core. It seems that to be a mission-style play, in the process of creating a wild field and battle, you must have thought about the different play method from the previous series, such as the open world, but there a reason why it was maintained as the way to clear the story mission. Yamura stated, in the process of developing the sequel, there was also an opinion to make a different game style. However, as a result of discussions, it was concluded that it should not be made into a title centered on movement and exploration, such as Elden Ring or Soul series. An Armored Core series, depending on assembly, the movement performance of the character changes and affects the play because that's the charm of the series. Yeah, one of the biggest features of Armored Core is like the leg part. It determines what type of mobility system your character would have, and it definitely shifts the gameplay to different heights depending on what you want. Sorry. It is designed to think about the speed movement through jumps or boosters, and depending on the combination of these parts, and reach altitude and speed vary. In this respect, it was judged that the element of exploration in the gameplay of Armored Core did not match. Therefore, we came to the conclusion that Armored Core 6 should be developed in a way that enjoys missions using assembly. Yeah, when you play Elden Ring, definitely there is that sense of exploration that is determined based on your character's style of combat. Like, if you have more vitality, you're able to survive longer jumps, and you're able to take a lot more risk. And if you have magic spells, you can also mitigate damage in different way. But if you have different types of assembly and suddenly you can't fit through a certain hole, or maybe you can't walk in a certain path, which would happen in an Armored Core game because different legs offer different mobility options, I don't think they can really have a system that accommodates everything while also making it unique. Because if you suddenly have to go back to whatever you have to go to change your Armored Core, suddenly you are forcing the player to fight in a certain way, which kind of, goes against the Armored Core series in the sense that you're supposed to have any option that you choose will be viable. And when you have an open world game, that's even harder to accomplish because, as we've seen with Elden Ring, yeah, certain builds are better than others, but for the most part, anyone can make anything and they can be a viable option. You can make tougher options, easier options. It's all dependent on the player's personal preference. However, the charm of Armored Core that you could go even without a road is great. You'll be able to see the style dramatically moving a third dimension and high level map as it is. I hope you will enjoy these parts. I think you will be able to feel a different pleasure from exploring every nook and cranny of the carefully crafted map as you move. The developer explained, in the process of developing the sequel, there was also an opinion to make it in a different game style. However, as a result of discussions, it was concluded that it should not be made into a title centered on movement and exploration, such as Elden Ring or the Soul series. In the Armored Core series, depending on the assembly, the movement performance of the character changes and affects the play because that's the charm of the series. I want to reiterate on that. Elden Ring serves as accumulation of everything that From Software has learned from the release of Demon's Souls back in the late 2000s, but taking its experience into crafting an intricate, interconnected world, a penchant for writing capacity narratives, and the fast-paced action of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I wouldn't agree with that. I say the combat is more aligned with Dark Souls 3, no, not Bloodborne, definitely Dark Souls 3. I played Sekiro. It is way, way, way more fast-paced. The studio was able to combine all of that and dial up the scale to 11 with proper open-world experience. Is Sekiro open world? I thought it was semi-open world. Like, there's definitely open world to it, but it's more like intercollected sections of the map. It's not true open world like Elden Ring. But I could be wrong about it. Again, I never completed the game. The result that this was a success on the Hieto unforeseen level and brought the Souls game to a more mainstream audience as it sold over 13 million copies in the first month. I would agree with that Elden Ring is definitely a much easier game to get into than Dark Souls. I would say Bloodborne would actually be the best game to choose from, but Elden Ring is definitely up there. As someone who's completed Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3, they are significantly harder, especially I would say Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 1, as long as you follow guides and have the Dark Souls community is pretty helpful. Like, if it wasn't for them, I would have never completed Dark Souls 1. But Dark Souls 1, I would say it's a lot more difficult because of the exploration elements. But Dark Souls 3 is definitely harder because of the combat the final boss is a joke once you get to it. But combat encounters leading up to the final boss are definitely extremely difficult, especially when you get to the Abyss Washers. Armored Core 6, on the other hand, is a series with a long history with its own charm. That's true. While it's true that things tend to change and evolve over time, it's not necessarily bound to change in one specific way. Evolution comes in many forms. Also true. According to the dev team, Armored Core 6 is going to be all in a way the assembly of aspects of your Armored Core. It will be up to the player to go through the myriad of parts available to determine the best plan of attack for the missions. This further emphasizes due to Yamamura's statement. I think you will be able to feel a different pleasure from exploring every nook and cranny of the carefully crafted maps as you move. Yeah, From Software is notorious for having like very heavy details in their map to the point that secrets sometimes go unfounded for years. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. From Software has already stated that Armored Core 6 will not play like the Soulsborne games fans are familiar with. Going by trailers and tiny bits of gameplay we've seen thus far, it's evident that they're going for a pinnacle of mecha warfare where everything ultimately comes down to the assembly of parts. In addition to the trailers, till now you have given no room to doubt the game's map design and art direction. So that's it. Honestly, I am looking for a really good mecha combat game. The last good one I played, personally speaking, was MechAssault. I really liked MechAssault 1. MechAssault 2, it's more for a niche audience. I feel like MechAssault 2 really gained this charm because the multiplayer is a lot more refreshing. as opposed to the first game, where Mech Assault 1 was definitely a early adapter of Xbox Live, up there with Crimson Skies and Halo 2. But Mech Assault 2 definitely had some issues to it, especially the whole inclusion of Papa Roach into the game. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, as someone who wants a giant mech fighting game, I did play a bit of Hawken. It wasn't my cup of tea. Like, I played through the game and I just felt like the environments were just so drab and dull that it just couldn't get into it. Like, I get it's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic environment with lots of like destroyed ruins and everything, but you can still have some color to it. Like, Mech Assault did that, and from what I saw from Armored Core's franchise, they also mixed it up as well. So I have full faith in From Software. I hope I can beat this game because not that confident when it comes to Soulsborns. I get really frustrated with them, and I tried to beat them. I try to put my heart and soul into them. If it wasn't for my Twitch followers, I would have never beaten Dark Souls 3. Like, one of the people who came into my stream, I forgot his name. It started with a C, but he came into my stream and gave me a bunch of overpowered items, and that's how I was able to beat Dark Eater Midir. If it wasn't for those items, I would have been so screwed. But I'm looking forward to this. I hope I can beat it. I will try my best and hope for the best. So that's it for the video. Leave a like if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Tell me if you're looking forward to Armored Core. Do you hope that Microsoft might bring back Mech Assault? I mean, they have a presentation. Really hope they do that. They have a treasure trove of IPs. Just stick your hand in there. And that's it from me. Signing out. Goodbye.